Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 333. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about Jack Lang, the French politician who had received a donation from Jeffrey Epstein in France. Well, today, Politico has a new story out adding some context to that. So, let's jump into this article by Politico and see what is going on. This article was authored by Paul Delvillepin. Headline: French politician Jack Lang says Epstein donation was to fund a movie? What? So a donation to fund a movie? Since when are we making donations to fund movies? What was it, a crowdsourced movie? Did I have an option to put some money up to help fund your movie? Or was it only for convicted pedophiles like Jeffrey Epstein? I guess the article will tell us. Retired French politician Jack Lang has broken his silence over a sizable donation from disgraced financier, pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein, telling Politico it was meant to fund a movie. In 2018, a year before his arrest on sex trafficking charges and his suicide, allegedly, in jail, Epstein made a donation of more than $57,000 to a French nonprofit through his private charity. The president, the treasurer, and the secretary of the nonprofit were all long-term staffers or friends of Lang, France's culture minister in the early 1980s, and then again from 1988 to 1993. Again, Jeffrey Epstein flexing his muscle with a politician or ex-politician in another country, in another place where he was up to no good. It's all a coincidence, though, right? That's the narrative. That's what they want us to believe. They want us to believe this is all a coincidence, that none of this stuff lines up, that none of it adds up. Well, I have my decoder ring that I got from the cereal box, I guess, that they don't have, because it all looks pretty clear to me what was going on, and the fact that Jeffrey Epstein had his hand out and was giving money out to people like Jack Lang and other politicians, it wasn't because he was just a kind man. It wasn't just because he decided one day that, you know what, I woke up today and I decide that I'm going to be a real charitable fella. I'm going to give money to everybody who needs it. That wasn't the case. Jeffrey Epstein, like many other members of so-called polite society, wrapped themselves in their charitable givings and use it as a shield in case the shit goes down later on in the story. And that's exactly what we've seen from a lot of these people involved with Epstein, right? How many of them are like, well, I have a charity, oh, my charity. And it's always the same story. They try and use their good works, their public face, right? Like I always say, they have a public face and then a hidden face. For their public face, the charities are where it's at. Yeah, I got this charity, I got that charity, we're helping this person, we're helping that person. Look, I'm a great guy. But behind closed doors, it was a whole different story. And with a lot of these people, it's the same exact thing. News of the donation, first reported last week by the Daily Beast, raised a host of questions for Lang, a prominent figure from the French Socialist Party closely associated with the late President François Mitterrand's high-powered promotion of the arts. And again, we talked about that, right? We talked about how such a prominent person in the French Socialist Party and somebody who is so prominent in the world of politics in France, how can they have like this sort of excuse? Oh, it's a donation for a movie. Nobody believes that, all right? Nobody's making donations for movies. Nobody's crowdsourcing your movie, okay? That money was for, I don't know what the purpose was, but I'm pretty damn sure it wasn't for a movie. The former minister, now president of the French Arab World Institute, declined to answer all of those questions when reached by phone on Tuesday. But in a brief conversation, he said the money was to finance a movie without providing specifics. So, of course, he's not answering any of those questions because he knows he can't answer them truthfully, and that if he does answer them, that the press or the alternate media will begin to dig. So, he ain't going to say shit. What he'll do is he'll try and craft his narrative. He'll try and give you a couple of breadcrumbs of what he wants you to think. Oh, yeah, well, it was for a movie. No specifics, nothing. I mean, so you don't have any sort of trailer for your movie? Can we know some of the actors in your movie, maybe? Who's directing it? What production company are you using? You know, that kind of stuff. Provided none of it. Asked whether work had started on the film, he said, "It's being finalized, I believe." Oh, you believe? You don't know? It's your film. Epstein donated the money to you for this film, but you don't know if it's completed? You think it's almost done? None of this makes sense, right? None of his story jives. The story doesn't add up. And I think we could add Jack Lang to the long list of dirtbag members of so-called polite society. An investigation by Politico suggests that the nonprofit has so far barely existed beyond some basic paperwork. So it's be a pretty huge feat for them to have a movie that's being finalized when their company barely exists besides some basic paperwork. That is going to be one hell of a flick, I'm sure. I mean, I guess when they unveil the cast, we're looking at like Pacino, and we're looking at Joe Pesci, and we're going to have all the top-notch actors in the whole world in this movie, right? No, wrong. There is no movie. There never was a movie. There was never going to be a movie. Sylvie Aubrey, Lang's longtime friend and one of the nonprofit's co-founders, said in a phone conversation she had no recollection of the nonprofit having ever really been active. She also said that it was basically set up by Jack Lang, despite the politician's name not appearing on any of the paperwork. Again, folks, might I point you to the FinCEN files? And it's laid a great bit of groundwork for us, right? It's laid a lot of base for us to go on. It is rather obvious that people like this Jack Lang and others in their circle, in their realm, use these tax havens. They use these LLCs and these different shops off of seas, these chop shops, to hide their money, to hide their involvement with these sorts of companies. And the FinCEN files has blown the doors off of that, and it's really opened up people's eyes to what's going on. And again, that's another reason why I discuss it so much here, because it's central to our discussion. Because remember, the way, in my opinion anyway, that we're going to get these enablers is via their financial ties and their financial crimes to Jeffrey Epstein. And this just adds more evidence to that fact. Another one of Jeffrey Epstein's with a shell company, with his name not appearing on paperwork, and obviously involved in some scumbaggery. The nonprofit, whose name translates to Association for the Promotion of National Cultural Policy conducted in the 1980s and 1990s of the 20th century, the period during which Lang was at the helm of France's cultural policy, was established in July 2018 by the three individuals close to the ex-minister. Oh yeah, so maybe they're going to do a puff piece on Mr. Jack Lang's incredible life, huh? Is it going to end with you cavorting with a convicted sex predator? And don't even get me started how this guy was even allowed to leave America. Jeffrey Epstein, with that conviction, should have been stuck in America the rest of his life so that we weren't exporting our trash elsewhere. It's embarrassing to think that this guy with that conviction was allowed to leave this country and continue to go on his criminal spree. The donation of $57,897 to the association is recorded in the tax returns of Epstein's private charity, Gratitude America. The association is the only French entity Epstein ever donated to, according to the tax returns. That's significant, right? Look, Jeffrey Epstein spent a lot of time in France, a lot of time in Paris. He had a house in Paris. Ghislaine is of French descent, and they were in Paris quite a bit. You would think that they would have been donating a lot more money to politicians. Unless, of course, Jack Lang was that connected, and their relationship with Jack Lang and his donation, the one that we know of anyway, could have been the catalyst for Jeffrey Epstein to get the look the other way kind of attitude that we have found amongst law enforcement in America, England, and elsewhere. Very possible. But look, you would think that there are others, if they dig hard enough, that were involved. You would think that there are other politicians or high-ranking officials that were in bed with Jeffrey Epstein. That's just his MO. Everywhere he goes, it's the same pattern. The French's nonprofit's mission statement, detailed in documents submitted to the local NGO register and obtained by Politico, was to sustain the relationships between the cultural and economic circles in France, to foster links between the creators, researchers, and producers that resulted from it, and to support the production of creative work, including audiovisual and cinematographic, aiming at raising awareness about this policy. Those are people who raised money to fund a movie. That's all, said Lang. And again, no movie though. They raised money to fund a movie, but we have no movie. We have no evidence of a movie ever being made. And once again, we have a man who is involved in so-called polite society, attempting to craft a narrative when the evidence points somewhere else. For a long time, that worked out well for them, right? Their narratives, their whole entire story that was run by the mainstream media, the legacy media, it was perfect for them. They had a great relationship. The media runs their bullshit, and in return, the media gets access. It was quite the parasitic relationship that they had going on. What they never expected was alternate media. What they never expected was independent journalists really digging in. Lang referred Politico to his office for further questions. His office declined to respond to multiple requests for comments and clarification, including what stage the movie was at or its topic. And again, why would he tell them to call his office? But the office says, well, we're declining to comment as well. What is the point? It doesn't make any sense. And this whole entire story with Jack Lang doesn't make any sense. It sure seems like another person, like one of the other dozens we have talked about and researched, who was a lot closer to Jeffrey Epstein than he wants us to believe. And he is in the middle of a marathon defense that is about to turn into a sprint. It is unclear whether the nonprofit had other donors. Aubrey said that she had no knowledge of Epstein's donation and that she never received income through the nonprofit. So what was the point of the whole entire nonprofit? If they've never received donations or income, what were you doing? Why was that nonprofit put into place, and what was its purpose? Florist and friend. A florist who notably works for luxury Parisian hotel La Maurice, Aubrey is a longtime friend of Lang. In a picture dated April 27, 2018, and posted on her Instagram profile, Lang can be seen indulging in tea and pastries under a monumental hand-painted gold and gold ceiling canvas in the restaurant of La Maurice. She posted another picture of Lang celebrating a family birthday in December last year. So what that goes to show you is she is friends with him, and she definitely knows him. So she can't get away by saying, well, I don't really know Mr. Lang, blah, 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 none of that nonsense. So they're definitely related, they're definitely friendly, and they were both definitely involved with this so-called nonprofit. In June 2018, Aubrey signed a memorandum of association, a legal statement signed by all directors agreeing to form the nonprofit. When contacted by Politico, Aubrey said at first that she was not aware of the existence of the nonprofit. Later in the conversation, she said that she remembered that Lang discussed the project with her and basically set it up. So she signed a memorandum in June of 2018 for all of the directors to form the nonprofit, but when Politico contacted her, she was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then later on, as they pressed her a little more and dug a little deeper and harder, I guess, she came clean and she said, well, she remembered that Lang discussed it with her, right? They talked about it, and he basically set it up. So she's throwing Lang under the bus here. She's saying, look, why don't you call Lang and get the answers you're looking for? In a subsequent phone conversation, Aubrey said, at a certain moment, I remember being asked if I wanted to create the nonprofit, and I said yes. She said that she believes the nonprofit had the intention of making a movie on culture in the 1980s and 90s or something like that, but declined to provide any material evidence of the film project. So, looks like what they're doing is they're rallying around each other, right? Let's rally around each other. Let's all come up with the same story and say it was for a movie, but there's nobody that has any evidence that backs that up. Are there production receipts? Are there receipts for set time? Or there's a lot of different ways they could prove it, but here's the real truth. There was no movie. All right. This was a $57,000 hand in pocket payoff to whoever got it. And with Jack Lang as the head of this stupid-ass so-called non-profit, my suspicions are directly pointed at him. In public records, the organization lists an address in the 14th arrondissement of Paris, in a building mostly occupied by doctors' offices where Aubrey also lives. The nonprofit isn't currently listed among the building's mailboxes and buzzers. They might as well just drop this thing off in the British Virgin Islands and make it a shell company there. I mean, could this be any more obvious what this is? And of course, at the heart of it, there's a corrupt politician. Isn't there always? Anytime you open any curtain to look into a room filled with disgusting deeds and devious people, you are certainly going to find elected officials. The group doesn't appear to have any online presence. The French Observatory of Cultural Policies, a national body closely involved in cultural life across the country, said it had never even heard of the nonprofit. Well, that's pretty interesting, huh? The Observatory of Cultural Policies has never even heard of this nonprofit. Well, shocking. They have never heard of it because it doesn't exist in anything more than name. Along with Aubrey and the nonprofit's governance structure are Christopher de Gruel, listed as president, and Jacques Renard, listed as treasurer. De Gruel worked as Lang's chief of staff when the latter was education minister and spent 3 years advising Lang at the Arab World Institute. De Gruel now holds an elected position of president of the urban community of Blois, a city in Loire Valley where Lang was mayor for 11 years. They were photographed together there at a cultural event in October of 2018. So Lang used to be the mayor here, and then de Gruel, who is his homie, his top confidant, well, he also now has an elected position there. I'm sure no nepotism was ever used. I'm sure it had nothing to do with, hey, I know a person over here or a person over there. I can get one of my guys in. Nah, we never see that from politicians across the world. That never happens. De Gruel did not respond to multiple messages and emails seeking comments. Renard was Lang's chief of staff at the Cultural Ministry. He declined to answer questions both in person and by phone. So they're definitely rallying around each other here, right? They're probably worked on their answers together. And there's only one way to find out the truth. And that's good investigative journalism and digging. And who knows, maybe Politico is going to get involved and do that. We know the Daily Beast is certainly doing that, but it would be nice to see Politico do the same thing. And I hope after this election, whichever way it goes, that we get some normalcy again and we get some real investigative journalism and not just headlines that are trying to get clicks. Lang Link. Although Lang's name does not appear on the nonprofit's official documents, its name is reminiscent of his political activity during the 80s and the 90s. Lang is widely credited for his role in making culture more accessible to a mass audience and for creating a popular street music festival held every year on the first day of the summer when amateur musicians give free open-air performances throughout the country. Well, if that's the case, then, look, he created a cool music festival, so he's not involved with Jeffrey Epstein, right? I mean, we should just stop digging, stop asking questions. Nobody should try and figure it out where that $57,000 went, who got it, if there was even a company. Nah, forget it. The guy made a music festival, folks. He gets a pass. In 2013, France's then president, Francois Hollande, appointed him president of the Arab World Institute, a cultural center dedicated to the Arabic civilization in Paris. Lang also served as a special advisor to Ban Ki-moon when he was UN Secretary General. Well, that seals it for me, right? Lang and worked for the UN. I don't know about you folks, but for me, the UN is just a useless organization at this point. Just a bunch of useless bureaucrats that don't ever stop anything bad from happening. If they were worth their weight in salt, then why didn't they step in and stop what's going on in Azerbaijan and Armenia? They're too busy doing other things, right? Too busy doing whatever the hell it is that they're doing at their no-rent spot in New York. In August 2019, Lang told France Info that he knew Epstein. He said he met Epstein at a dinner in honor of Woody Allen in 2012 in Paris. There's Woody Allen's name again. How many times has Woody Allen been hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein? How many times have we seen Woody Allen's name attached to Jeffrey Epstein? So I think that Woody Allen should be talked to by the news. Don't you think that might be a good idea? Have Woody Allen sit down and have a nice talk about his good buddy Jeffrey Epstein and what he knew? Lang expressed support for the director, also a friend of Epstein, following sexual abuse accusations made by his adoptive daughter Dylan Farrow. In January 2018, on the day Dylan Farrow detailed alleged abuse by her father in her first televised interview, Lang tweeted #WoodyAllenForever. Allen has repeatedly denied the accusations. Yeah, I don't buy it about Woody Allen denying the accusations either. You're hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein. Lang's tweeting Woody Allen forever. And we all know that these people don't care about the survivors. They don't care about anybody but themselves. And it just gives more evidence, right? That this Lang guy is telling lies. He is not telling the truth. He has an interest in protecting people like Woody Allen and his buddy Jeffrey Epstein. So if anyone's expecting him to answer their questions, they're going to be in for a long day. Instead, they're going to have to start digging around him, his friends, his family, anybody that'll talk. And that's the way to get to the golden egg. Lang said he only had lunch at Epstein's apartment on Avenue Foch near the Champs-Élysées on one occasion and called the financier, pedophile, a charming, courteous, and agreeable person. Yeah, I bet you would think that. If you think Woody Allen's a great guy, you and Jeffrey Epstein are going to get along swell. It is true that he was often accompanied by pretty women, but who were evidently not minors, he told France Info. Lang said he was flabbergasted when he learned of all these stories about him. Yeah, right, you're a liar, Mr. Lang. I'll straight up say it. You were flabbergasted. Please, stop it, okay? You and Jeffrey Epstein were homies, bro. You didn't just have one lunch with him either. I'm sure it's going to come out when all the digging is done, just like with Bill Gates, that you and Epstein were tight. So please, save the BS. Lang also invited Epstein in March 2019 to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Louvre Pyramid, also attended by then Culture Minister Frank Rister. So again, it's just an acquaintance. We've only met once, but I'm going to invite you to the Louvre Pyramid, the 30th anniversary of that? Yeah, because that's what happens with acquaintances. That's exactly the sort of event you get invited to. There is no indication whatsoever that Lang participated in Epstein's crimes. The former minister has not been the subject of any accusation by any of Epstein's survivors. Absolutely not. 100% nobody has said one word like that. But the fact is, he enabled Jeffrey Epstein, and if he was involved with him financially with these shell companies, he might have been involved in financial crimes. So, add another target, another subject to the list. Epstein first pled guilty to a felony charge of solicitation of prostitution involving a minor. Stupid-ass law, doesn't even exist. How can a minor be a prostitute? In 2008, and was sentenced to 18 months in prison in Florida, of which he served 13. The financier, pedophile, was subsequently forced to register as a sex offender everywhere besides New Mexico. Funny that, huh? No raid, nothing going on in New Mexico, no state investigation, and the band plays on. He was arrested again in 2019 and charged with sexually abusing numerous underage girls over several years. In the years following his first jail sentence, Epstein touted his philanthropic endeavors in regular press releases, painting himself as a patron of the arts and sciences in an effort to burnish his reputation. And that was another direct result of anybody being directly financially involved with Epstein. If you were taking his money, if you were palling around with him, if you were accepting donations to him, well, that was helping rebuild his reputation. That was his goal. He wanted it to look like what he did in 2008, 2009 when he got arrested was no big deal. And all of you people, Mr. Jack Lang, Mr. Bezos, all of you jerk-offs who invited him to your stupid parties, your stupid getaways, your dumbass Edge Foundation moronic events, were all part of helping him rehabilitate his image. And you all share in the blame, you enabling bastards. Epstein's Gratitude America Foundation was established in 2012 to provide support to other organizations around the world that seek to celebrate the United States of America and the American ideals, including liberty, equality, democracy, individualism, unity, and diversity. Oh, God, that makes me want to be just ill. To think that this guy thinks he represents the United States of America, to think that this asshole thought that he represented what was best about the United States of America is sickening. And he does not, okay? He represents the most animalistic amongst us. Chemical castration and buried underneath the prisons. That's what all of the people like Jeffrey Epstein deserve. It is the only way, without them dying, that you can assure that nobody else is going to be abused. The foundation's money reportedly came from a $10 million donation made through a limited liability company tied to a private equity billionaire, Leon Black. Mr. Black. Funny how we would put the money through another one of these shell corporations, right? Let me distance myself from it. Why would Leon Black, if he wanted to do this and set up a corporation or a company to help other organizations, why would he need Jeffrey effing Epstein as his middleman? Leon Black has more money than God himself. He could have had anybody working with him, but he chose Jeffrey Epstein. And I'll leave that question with you folks. Why do you think he would do that? Why do you think Leon Black would be in business with Jeffrey Epstein? It's not because they were good friends, okay? It's because they had a lot of the same interests. Gratitude America banked through Deutsche Bank AG, the Wall Street Journal reported, which was slapped in July 2020 with a $150 million fine for significant compliance failures in its dealings with Epstein. Now, mind you, they were doing all of these deals through Deutsche Bank. That means that Leon Black was moving this money through Deutsche Bank, who got slapped with this $150 million fine. Now, if they decide to pursue him criminally for financial crimes connected to Epstein under the RICO Act, boy, you sure do have a smoking gun right here, don't you? At the very least, enough to get a subpoena. And what do they say about grand juries? Hell, in front of a grand jury, you can get a ham sandwich indicted. So, they have plenty of evidence here. If they're going to go the route that we think they're going to go, if they're going to really pursue this and go after these people with RICO charges, then people like Leon Black are in big trouble, in my opinion. Two of Epstein's associates in charge of Gratitude America, attorneys Darren Indyke and Erica Kellerhals, did not respond to several messages and calls seeking comment. Now, remember, both of them are subpoenaed right now by Denise George, the Attorney General in the Virgin Islands, and that's all part of her civil RICO case. So remember, we have a RICO case going on already, be it a civil version of one, but it lays the groundwork. It's the blueprint, the template. And I have no doubt in my mind that if this prosecution really means business, that we'll see a criminal version of that RICO very soon. Epstein's philanthropy has been the subject of intense scrutiny. The Epstein scandal prompted a philanthropy reckoning with accepting donations from tainted sources. Several scientists, nonprofits, and institutions such as Harvard came under fire for receiving millions from Epstein. Yeah, we've been all over that too. Look, these places of higher education that are charging this unseemly amount of money to have your children go there should do a better job of who they're getting their money from. They should vet people like Epstein a whole lot better. The thing is, they knew who Epstein was, and they still took his money. That's the biggest problem. So places like Harvard and MIT and all these other schools that took money from Jeffrey Epstein, they're going to have to answer for it too, as this trial rolls along, as things begin to bloom and develop. According to Patricia Illingworth, professor of ethics at Northeastern University in the United States, it's hard to justify soliciting or receiving money from controversial donors like Jeffrey Epstein. Well, what do you know? Guess what, folks? I am not a professor of ethics at any university. And I know that is a fact. Okay? You should not be soliciting or receiving money from anybody like Jeffrey Epstein. Plenty of other people out there that will donate to your cause. Epstein violated the rights of young girls, and there was every reason to believe he would perform bad acts in the future, she said. Epstein was arrested on July 6, 2019 at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey upon arriving from France. In August 2019, following Epstein's suicide, allegedly, in his prison cell in New York, the Paris prosecutor's office opened a preliminary investigation into alleged sexual offenses linked to the financier pedophile's activities in France. Yeah, I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if they're really searching for anything in France at this point. I think that the French authorities are looking at this as an American problem and not bothering doing the proper investigation. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in France. But one thing is most certainly clear. Jack Lang and Jeffrey Epstein had a lot closer relationship than Jack Lang wants us to believe. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI at protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. All right, everybody, I'll be back tomorrow morning and, we'll do it all over again.